Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today we have something a little bit different. I decided to do a crochet stitch series where I show you guys how to do different stitches. Maybe I'll do a video once, maybe twice a week, but don't worry, I'll still have my regular fashion videos. And to get started off, we have this really pretty puff stitch that's separated by, I guess, shells. It's perfect for blankets, throws. You could even incorporate it into your sweaters or cardigans. It's completely up to you. It's only a 2-row repeat, so it's pretty simple. So it is. It's perfect for any level of crochet lover. You can use whatever hook or yarn you like, just make sure that the hook you use is suitable for the yarn that you're using. I used Rico Design Creative Cotton. It's a weight 4 and the colour is Party, and I used a 5mm crochet hook. So for this pattern you're going to work in multiples of 6. So once you're happy with your length, you're going to chain an extra 2. Then you're going to single crochet into that second chain from your hook, and you're going to continue placing one single crochet into each chain all the way across. So once you've single crocheted all the way across, we are going to chain 1 and then turn our work. And into that very first stitch, place 1 single crochet. Then we are going to skip the next 2 stitches, and into that third stitch we're going to make a puff stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch and pull your yarn through. Pull your loop up a little bit, then yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over, insert your hook, pull your yarn through, yarn over, insert your hook and pull your yarn through, then yarn over, insert your hook one more time, pull your yarn through. So now you should have 11 loops on your hook. So yarn over and pull your hook through each of those loops. So that's your first puff stitch made. So now we're going to chain 2 and we're going to repeat that again. We're going to make another puff stitch into that same stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over, insert your hook again, pull your yarn through, yarn over, insert your hook again, pull your yarn through, yarn over, insert your hook, pull your yarn through, and then yarn over, insert your hook once more, pull your yarn through. You should have 11 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull your hook through all the loops. Then we're going to chain 2 again, and then we're going to make a third puff stitch into the same stitch. So when we have our third puff stitch done, we are just going to chain 1. Next we're going to skip the next 2 single crochet, and into that third we're going to place 1 single crochet. And we're basically going to repeat that all the way across. We're going to skip 2 stitches, and into the third we're going to start our set of 3 puff stitches. So skip 2 stitches, and into that third make your first puff stitch. When you have your first puff stitch made, we're going to chain 2, and then into that same stitch make our second puff stitch. When your second puff stitch is made, we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to make our third puff stitch into that same stitch. Once we have our third puff stitch made, we are just going to chain 1. Then we're going to skip 2, and into the next stitch place 1 single crochet. So that's our pattern for this row. Next we're going to skip 2 stitches, then we're going to do our set of 3 puff stitches, then we're going to skip 2, and then do our single crochet, and we're going to repeat that all the way across until we reach the end of the row. Here we are towards the end of the row. I've just made my last set of puff stitches. Make sure you chain 1 after your last puff stitch. I have 3 stitches left, so skip the next 2, and into that very last stitch place 1 single crochet. For the next row, chain 3, and then turn your work. This chain 3 counts as your first double crochet. So into that very first stitch place 2 double crochet. So now altogether you have 3 double crochet in that very first stitch. So now we are going to place 1 single crochet into this space here. It's between that second puff and your third puff. So into that space place 1 single crochet. Then into your next single crochet we're going to place 5 double crochet, all into that same single crochet. Then we are going to place 1 single crochet in that space between our second puff and our third puff. And then into your next single crochet we are going to place 5 double crochet. So you're going to repeat that all the way across. Here I am towards the end of the row. I've just made my 5 double crochet. Now I'm placing a single crochet between that second and third puff, and into the very last stitch we are going to place 3 double crochet into that same stitch. So these 2 rows will form your pattern. As you can see now, there's a lot of texture and dimension to this stitch. I really like it. It's one of my favorites. So just repeat those 2 rows. We're going to chain 1, single crochet into that same stitch. Then we're going to skip 2 stitches and into that third place a puff stitch. After your first puff stitch, we are going to chain 2. Then we're going to make our second puff stitch into that same stitch. After that second puff stitch, chain 2. Then make your third puff stitch into that same stitch. After our third puff stitch, we are just going to chain 1. Then we're going to skip 2 stitches and into the next place 1 single crochet. So we're going to repeat that all the way across. We are going to skip the next 2 stitches. Then we are going to make our set of 3 puff stitches into the next stitch. Make sure that when you have your third puff stitch made, that you just chain 1, then skip the next 2 stitches and into the next place 1 single crochet. So keep repeating that all the way across. Here I am towards the end of the row. I've made my set of 3 puff stitches. Make sure to chain 1 after your last puff stitch. Then we're going to skip the next 2 stitches and into that very last stitch place 1 single crochet. And now for the next row, chain 3 and then turn your work. This chain 3 counts as your first double crochet. So into that same stitch place 2 more double crochet. So altogether you have 3 double crochets in that one stitch. Then place 1 single crochet in that space between your second puff and your third puff. Into the next single crochet, place 5 double crochet. And you're going to repeat that. Place 1 single crochet between your second and third puff stitch, and then place 5 double crochet into that next single crochet, and you're going to repeat that all the way across. Here I am towards the end of the row. I've just made my 5 double crochet. So I'm going to place 1 single crochet between the second and third puff stitch. I have 2 stitches left. So into that last stitch we are going to place 3 double crochet. And that's it. All you're going to do now is just repeat those 2 rows over and over again until you're happy with the length. So as you can see, it's a really pretty and easy stitch. It's just perfect for just lazing in front of the TV. It's really easy to do, 2 rows. I mean, what more could you want? So if you like these types of videos, if you want to see more stitch videos, or if there's a particular stitch you want to learn, just let me know in the comments down below. So until next time, take care.